I, female 36, have been married to my husband, 42, for 2 years. I've never been married before him, but he was married twice and had 6 kids. He requested our finances be split. Fine by me, because seeing how he blows through his money is frustrating. He says he has kids and commitments and has to provide, but I don't think the kids would need that much money to live like the other kids. His bank account is almost always empty, while mine has over $20K, so we take turns paying for daily expenses and stuff. Lately, he's been struggling with money. He borrowed from a number of people, including my brother, about $4K from him just a week ago. He just seemed desperate for money, so I asked what the deal was, and he said he needed the money for the kids, which seemed fishy since kids don't need that much money for their expenses. The eldest is mid-teens. He came and asked to borrow $14K from me, pulling it from my account and into his. I tried asking him what he needed the money for, but he said it was none of my business, then insisted that he'll return it ASAP. I said okay, but under the condition that he sign a contract stating he'll return the money in full. He acted shocked and offended, then went on about how I don't trust him and his word. I told him that's all I had. This was my only condition. He kept ranting about how I'm refusing to help and making the situation more difficult for him instead of cooperating. Finally, I insisted on a contract to be signed before he even pulled a penny. And this morning when I told him this one more time, he blew up and said that we're family and that I should be ashamed for involving courts and lawyers between family. He left the house and was so upset that he hadn't responded to my calls yet. Am I the idiot for standing my ground with this condition? Hey honey, can I have like half of your savings? What's it for? None of your business, you ungrateful witch. Obviously not the idiot. Cut him off. You won't see that money again. Your brother's money? Also gone. Take anything worth anything and give and store it with family. You need to pull yourself out of this situation as well. It is your money. You're tied to this man whose credit score likely cannot be measured, as it must be dug out first. If you could return that much money ASAP, you wouldn't need it in the first place. You'd be open and honest about your time frame for repaying it. This is absolutely a gambling debt. I've been around this. This person was the last person I had to cut out from my life. A friend who gambled constantly, always needed to borrow money, contingent he'd be able to pay back double as soon as possible. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't here either. 2 years sounds about right for the maximum amount of time one's able to hide something like this from another person close to them. This right here. OP has $20K in the bank and is willing to give her financially irresponsible hubby $14K if he agrees to sign a piece of paper. But whether he signs a contract or not, there's no way she's getting this money back. OP, do not loan your hubby any money. You are the idiot to yourself. Do not even consider giving him this money. And I said giving because you must know you'll never see it again. A piece of paper will not conjure this money out of thin air, so he has to give it back. You're inventing a condition to tell yourself he won't just take the money and lose it. You must know that he can't afford to pay you back if he needs to borrow such a large amount of money. And he's borrowing even more from others. His attitude, his secrecy, the fact that he's hitting everyone up for money. Why are you with him? So depressing. Me too. I had to put my phone down and walk away after reading about 2 exes and 6 kids. Why would anyone be willing to enter into this? Why do people think they can't do better? The OP is articulate and smart, but look at this situation. Update. So we talked after he got home, and when I tried pressuring him to tell me what he needed the money for, he gave the same attitude and said, I don't have to worry about it. I still stood by the condition I made, and he called me useless, then stormed off to spend the night with, at God knows who. So I, female 33, have been working in this company for 3 years. After years of long shifts, working on weekends, and going the extra mile, the company finally gave me a promotion. When my coworkers heard, they were confused. Some pointed out that they've been with the company longer and worked harder. I ignored their comments since they were, quote, venting. However, there's this coworker named Michael who joined us. He rarely does that. Yesterday during lunch break, and started venting about his demotion. I stayed quiet till he brought up my promotion and then flat out said that the reason I got the promotion was because of my breast size. I was shocked. I almost dropped my cup. I looked around and everyone was staring. I responded by saying, "And the reason you got a demotion was because of your brain size." His face went pale and people were laughing. He was angry beyond belief. He turned around and walked out. Some coworkers approached me saying that Michael's reputation is ahead of him and that he's one of the best this company has hired. But due to his circumstances, he couldn't focus on his work and got demoted. So I shouldn't imply he was stupid and humiliate him in front of everybody. I asked if they were okay with what he said. They said no, but I could have ignored or talked to him privately. He's awaiting my apology and keeps avoiding me. I feel horrible because I'm not a mean person and don't go out of my way to hurt others' feelings. I started to regret what I said. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Go straight to HR and report him for harassment, which is exactly what his comment was. He was taking his own personal failings out on your physical attributes. Get ahead of this situation. Do not apologize to him. That could be taken as an admission of guilt. I think your response was perfect. Did your coworkers tell Michael he was way out of line for his comment? They don't get to tell you that you should have ignored or talked to him privately after he publicly insulted you. Go to HR. If Michael felt it was okay to talk about a coworker like that once, then he'll most likely do it again. He's already shown he has no issue putting you down in front of your peers. He can harass you however he wants, but you're supposed to apologize? Go to HR and at least get the real version of what took place before he spins his own tale. Instead, he'll make himself the victim, backed by the fragile ego little coworkers who wanted OP to take it on the chin without clapping back. Michael can add misogynist to his reputation. Let's see how far that brings him. I hate how we women gaslight ourselves. OP is concerned that Michael is waiting for her apology and whether she's an idiot. The fact that all OP's colleagues seem not to be offended and horrified at Michael's comment makes me suspect that this is one of those nasty toxic workplace cultures where harassment training is only done when they're forced to do it. I, female 36, have a daughter, teen, who loves baking and is incredibly good at it. It's been her passion since she was 3, and I encourage her to follow it and discover more ways to become better at it. I even enrolled her in a few classes in the academy to learn more. I met my fiance, male 41, 2.5 years ago. We're getting married soon, and for the wedding cake, I had an idea to have my daughter bake the cake and decorate it for us. My daughter agreed and was so excited to do it. My fiance glanced at me when he heard about it. Then when we were alone, he snapped and said, "I can't believe you're being serious about this." I told him, why not? It's not like we're having a huge formal wedding with many guests, just a small party with our family and loved ones. He said this was a darn joke and that he wouldn't let a child bake our wedding cake while there are tons of professional bakers out there who can make a much more decent looking and decent tasting one. I said I didn't understand the problem because I thought he loved her baking. He responded, "I do love what she bakes, but let's just stick to the muffins and brownies." I told him he was being unreasonable and that his words were hurtful to me and my daughter and her abilities. He told me to be more realistic and consider what the guests say. Again, I said all the guests are family and friends, so I doubt they'd comment negatively about the cake, knowing my daughter made it. As a matter of fact, they might even think it's sweet. He got mad and said nothing was sweet about getting embarrassed on his wedding day. We argued for over 2 hours, just going back and forth on the issue. Later, I got a call from his mother telling me that I should start being rational and look at things from her son's perspective. She suggested we get a professional cake for the wedding and then have my daughter maybe bake some cupcakes for the buffet or something. But I wasn't convinced and felt like they were deciding my wedding plans for me and forcing what they wanted on me. I don't care how the cake will look, but it's the sentiment I care about. Not the idiot, and for your daughter's sake, please don't marry this guy. There are so many red flags here. The wedding is getting closer, and he's showing his true colors. Has he been married before? If so, was his previous wedding a big event or not? Not only is he dismissing your wishes and feelings, but he's also being incredibly dismissive and derisive of your daughter, her abilities, and her feelings. All of this wrapped in a bow of disrespect. And then he has the nerve to involve his mother? For you and your daughter's sake, run. And if you don't run now, at the very least, do not marry this man and make it harder for you to disengage from him later. Girl, run, seriously. Not just because of his behavior, but his mother called you, told you to be rational, got involved in your argument? No, absolutely not. Do you want that for the rest of your life? I promise you, it will get worse. The fact that she feels comfortable enough to do that is shocking, but she's not been told not to do it again and not to get involved, so she's had the green light to do it anytime there's an issue. Everyone's an idiot. It's both of your weddings, and neither of you seems to understand. Where was the consultation with the fiancé before asking the daughter to make the cake? But also, why is he using his mom to try and tell OP what should happen on her wedding day? I just got married, and every step of the way, if I came up with an idea, the first port of call was to discuss it with my fiancé to make sure we were both happy with it. It astonishes me that this isn't how everyone does it. Maybe the blowback from the fiancé has more to do with not being asked before the decision was made than the actual idea. If not, is OP sure she wants to marry someone with so little respect for her daughter? My male 36 son's teen dog passed away recently. I signed him up with a therapist because his dog's death has left him unable to speak. He's been in therapy for 2 weeks now. 2 days ago, my son called crying, saying that his stepdad punished him by taking away his bicycle and selling it for no reason. I was livid. I went to have a word with his stepdad, who told me that there was a reason. My son badmouthed him to the therapist and claimed that he treated the dog poorly. I was floored at this. I argued with him, asked him how he knew, and told him to prove that my son said all that. He showed me the text between him and my son's therapist. So basically, the therapist had been giving out private info about a bunch of stuff my son talked about in therapy. I was even more floored. I went straight to that therapist, and we had a huge argument. I told him I would report him after he defended himself, saying he gave my son's stepdad this info because of concern as a parent. I said that I didn't give a crap what the justification was and went on with my report. He tried to talk about how he felt for my son's stepdad and his concerns as a parent, so he didn't think he did anything wrong. My son's mom called after she found out about the report, and she blew up at me on the phone, calling me a controlling idiot for what I did. I ignored her calls after that, but my own wife thought I had made a hasty decision and that the real problem was my son's stepdad, not the therapist. Was I in the wrong for reporting him? Not the idiot. There's a reason those conversations are private. Not even the parents should know what's talked about. Your poor son will have a very difficult time trusting someone else. What this therapist did was against the law. Your son was not in danger of hurting himself or someone else. Nothing helpful could have come from the therapist telling his stepdad this info. But the therapist felt bad for the stepdad? Does no one care that the stepdad is a parent too, and he has feelings? OP, I hope that therapist has their license yanked, and you may want to consider adjusting the custody agreement if your boy's stepdad lashes out like this. Your wife is right that the stepdad is a part of the problem. Your report wasn't hasty. It was the right decision. I can't even imagine what kind of BS this quack has been telling that poor kid. I'm guessing it's something like, men don't cry, or it was just a stupid dog. Stepdad's feelings hurt so bad, he took a bike away from a young man? My bike was like my car is today. I'm the daughter of a therapist, and I'm currently getting my own degree in psychology to become a therapist myself eventually. However, this story made me incredibly angry. I have many concerns about this situation. First, if your son has been barely speaking for 2 weeks about the death of a pet, it must have been extremely traumatic. And if he's saying his stepfather treated the dog badly, well, let your imagination run wild. If the stepfather was innocent in all this, why retaliate? I don't think that home is a safe place for your son. And at the very least, the stepfather is being cruel and vindictive. And at the worst, which is pure speculation, he had something to do with the dog dying. I would sue for full custody, ASAP. My female 35, sister 30, is a single mom. My nephew is a young child. He is the family's prince, and the family loves him so much. My husband and I consider him as our own because we can't have our own children, so we give him all the love we have in our hearts. However, my husband always jokes about adopting my nephew and often mentions that my sister isn't a proper mother, simply for needing to work. This annoyed everybody and made my sister uncomfortable, so I told him to stop. We used to watch my nephew occasionally while my sister worked. She offered us money to watch my nephew regularly, 3 days a week. We agreed but refused to get paid, but she insisted out of generosity. My husband was happy with this arrangement. He said at least he won't worry about paying for things like his smoke packs and gas, currently out of work. It's been like this for weeks. Last week I was out and told my husband to stay with my nephew until I returned from the pharmacy. I got back quickly and I overheard his conversation with my nephew. My nephew was asking why his mom was working all the time. My husband told him she had bills to pay and issues to fix. My nephew asked why his mom was struggling like that, and my husband said, well, if she didn't make a dumb decision to have a kid in this circumstance, then she wouldn't be dealing with all of this. Maybe if she ever lets us adopt you one day, then you'll have a better life. I was stunned. I walked in on them, pulled him into the kitchen and blew up at him, asking what he was thinking about saying such a messed up thing to his nephew. He said it was fine, and my nephew probably didn't understand what he said anyway. I said he was wrong because at his age, kids understand, and looking at how quiet my nephew got, it confirmed that he understood. I lashed out at my husband and told my sister what he said, and she told him that from now on out, he's not allowed to be watching my nephew, ever. He pitched a hissy fit, saying I messed up everything and escalated the situation and made my sister keep his beloved nephew, who's like a son to him, away from him. He's sulking about it, saying I made the situation worse and punished him for saying something so minor. I feel bad because he treats him as his son and buys him toys. Not the idiot, but honestly, I don't think you're fully grasping just how bad your husband's behavior is here. You understand what he's saying, right? These comments about adoption have never been jokes. He genuinely wants to take your nephew from your sister and doesn't even care whether you're on board with that. Under no circumstance should he have contact with your nephew, at least until he gets it through his head that that's not happening. And you need to seriously ask yourself if you want to stay in this situation, unless he works through where he got this idea that this would be okay. Agree. Your husband's obsession with adopting your nephew is concerning. What was your husband thinking? That's way out of line. And now your nephew's been told something that will impact his self-esteem and his views on his mother by someone he trusted. Incredibly not cool. This is a huge red flag from your husband.